Let me just start off by saying that this new campaign that McFarlane just threw up there with this new Spawn action figure is going to make him an absolute bag. The dude is going to be so rich, he's probably going to buy another one of those big giant rapper chains. Honestly, I've said this before, I've said this joke, but I'll say it again. The dude's neck muscles are probably huge. He's always rocking these gigantic chains. They're probably like 24 carats. The dude always rocks the best ice. But anyways, all jokes aside, we've already spent quite a bit of time talking about McFarlane's neck for some unknown reason. In today's video, I wanted to give you guys my quick take, my personal opinion on some of the newer releases that McFarlane has been announcing. I'm not really going to get too deep into the whole Kickstarter campaign because I already made an entire video on that. Essentially, it's getting fully funded. I mean, I think the bare minimum was 100,000. It's already at like 1.6 thousand at the moment of this recording, and then it's just going to continue to go up from there. Not to mention the Kickstarter goals, or the stretch goals, I think were like 250,000 and then 500,000. Those got completely obliterated. Everything is going to get thrown in the bag for this particular Kickstarter, and it's pretty exciting for people that, you know, are big Spawn fans. But I wanted to talk about some other stuff like DC Multiverse, for example. McFarlane did put up for pre-order that Hugo Strange disguised as Batman, and it's an absolute joke. Not even a good one, like the kind that makes you spray milk out of your nostrils. It's just really bad. It's a really lazy reuse from McFarlane. I've said this before. People will buy good solid reuses from him, and essentially what he's doing here is he's releasing a Hugo Strange head sculpt that we know he's going to reuse in the future, and then reusing that Batman body mold for like the 1000th time. It makes no sense to me. If he really wants to reuse a particular body mold a few times, we've seen him do it efficiently. Like if you want to do an original one and then a slightly different paint job, maybe some cell shading for a 2-pack, and then maybe the black and white sketch variant, which I'm not a huge fan of, but at least that adds a little bit more value to a collector's display, and then maybe an unmasked damaged version. I mean, all of those sound way better than this. I personally am not going to pick this up, and I think people that are not really big fans of Hugo Strange should just steer clear of this. We're eventually going to get the proper version, maybe something like in a lab coat with some glasses and some extra accessories, and we can only hope and pray that it's not going to be a collector's edition, similar to what he did with the Penguin action figure, where he just reused a body mold, gave absolutely no extras, and decided to charge $30 just because it was a classic Batman villain that he knew people were going to purchase. But I've wasted enough saliva being negative. Let's get into a figure that I'm actually very excited about, and that is the collector's edition Batman from the Dark Knight Returns storyline. This is a really interesting figure. It's essentially a repaint of that original Dark Knight with an unmasked head and then some body damage. It looks phenomenal. This is exactly what we want when it comes down to reusing certain body molds. This is what we've been asking for. Not only that, it also comes with like a lamppost that can be used as like a display prop. It would be really cool if McFarlane decided to go back and maybe start doing like actual diorama sets for Build-A-Figures instead of like actual figures. This would be absolutely crazy. But just a lamppost alone, I think, adds so much value to this figure. Obviously, you're going to be looking at like that $29.99 price point, but I love this. This is exactly what we want. And I have the original few figures, the original wave with the horse, and I have to say this one would easily replace that black and gray Batman suit that I have up right now on my display. I will say, if there's anything that I still need from this particular universe, and I continue pushing it for it, is that mutant leader. Maybe this could have been done in like a 2-pack. You add the mutant leader in there along with this battle damaged Dark Knight or Batman, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they decided to go back to that Superman and give him some battle damage as well, from like when Batman kicks his ass when he's wearing that armored suit, maybe like a broken jaw, something like that would be really cool. So again, continuing to reuse those body molds, but do it efficiently. Put some effort towards it, and I think collectors will respond accordingly. We also saw the new Huntress action figure go up for pre-order. It's also from the collector's edition line, and it is based in that new 52 universe. And yes, you are seeing the screen correctly. McFarlane is showing some love to some female characters. I don't think we've ever seen anything quite like this. Not only does she come with 6 hands total and a wired cape, but also 3 different head sculpts. Now, I'm not sure if the head sculpts are just ultra alternate looks from that particular comic book run, or whether each head sculpt is a part of like a different DC comic book era. Like I said, I'm not too familiar with the character, I'm not too familiar with their storyline, so I could be completely off here, but it's just really interesting the fact that McFarlane is giving this much value to a female character. We're also starting to see way more being offered for these DC collectors line. We're starting to see wired capes, extra head sculpts, and things of that nature, which is something that a lot of the time the accessories are missing from these figures. I just gave you guys the example of Penguin, but it's not just a one-off. We're consistently seeing it, but recently it seems like he's just adding more value. I'm not sure if this is because now that he's offered the wired cape, he can go back and just have these manufactured, like maybe the blueprints are ready, and now he can just go back and mass produce these at a factory somewhere. Maybe it's easier once you design like the prototype or the original version, then from there you can go into production much easier. That's probably my guess, but it's really nice to continue seeing so much offered from the collector's edition line. They also had this Green Lantern Corps action figure release, which is really interesting because it technically comes with 2 head sculpts, and then the Platinum edition comes with an extra 2, so technically there are 4 head sculpts. I should clarify, if you want all 4 head sculpts, you actually have to pick up both the regular release as well as the Platinum version. So if you're really a big giant diehard Green Lantern fan and you want to continue fleshing out your Green Lantern Corps, this is your opportunity, but it's going to be incredibly difficult. I can only imagine how much those Platinum releases are going to go for. A lot of highly sought after Platinum edition figures already go for pretty good prices. Like if you're looking at even characters that nobody's interested in, you're usually going to be paying about double. But if you want anything that's like highly coveted, you could be paying upwards of $80 to $90. I like the idea, I like the concept of giving extra head sculpts in the Platinum version, but not when it's a completely new character. The figure will come with even more amazing constructs. I've said this before, we need more of those, especially for people that are picking up multiple Green Lanterns. I've often floated the idea of making like a construct accessory pack, in case you want extra stuff for your Green Lantern action figures. You don't have to buy every single Green Lantern release ever. You can just buy one of these packs and then have a plethora of different accessories and weapons to add to your Green Lantern action figures. Now, the only clear downside here is that you technically have to pick up 4 of these to have a body mold for each individual head sculpt, if that's your objective. Like if you want every single character in your display simultaneously, it's going to get pretty hectic, and you're going to be paying what, like $120 plus taxes and shipping. It's a pretty hefty price. Not to mention you'll have a bunch of extra head sculpts. So I'm not sure if this is like a win-win for everybody involved. It's definitely going to be a little bit more difficult to track down, and you're going to have a bunch of extra accessories, but it is now up for pre-order if you are interested in this particular figure. There is also a 3-pack that is supposed to be based on the Court of Owls comic book line, and really interesting. It's mostly just a bunch of reuse. There's like an owl action figure with the suit and then the mask, and then there is the Nightwing. I believe that's just 100% reused with just a different paint job or a paint deco. And then you have Talon, who is using kind of like a leather color. I want to say it has like that leather effect to it. I can't quite remember if he came with the same accessories originally. I want to say that it comes with a couple of extra blades, but I wouldn't be 100% sure. But it definitely looks better, at least in my personal opinion. I like that leather look. It seems to have a little bit more painted detail, at least from the promotional images. I like the 3-pack. I'm just personally not a huge fan of that entire comic book run, but if this is something that's up your alley, this is a perfect opportunity to jump in on this. And $60 really isn't too bad for a 3-pack. Usually if you were to buy these separately, you would be paying about like $23 a figure. I think that's what they're going for now, $22.99. So you're getting a couple of extra accessories, you're getting a new character, and then on top of that, they're cutting about like $5 to $6 for this entire triple pack. So I think it's a really good deal. Like I said, if this is something that you're interested in, it is now up for pre-order. And then lastly, McFarlane did throw up 3 figures, or I should say 2 figures and 1 accessory up for pre-order. We have the Dawn of DC Red Hood action figure. I'm personally not too familiar with it. I haven't really been keeping up too much with the DC comic book universe, but this appears to be one of his newer outfits. It looks cool. It looks pretty sleek and slender. I will say a lot of this, or at least some of it, appears to be new sculpt work. I'm not going to go out on a limb and say that that's exactly the case, but this appears to have a lot of new pieces, or if it's not new, it's kind of taking from different figures, because it doesn't appear to look like anything that we've seen before. It's cool. It's stylish. If you want the newer version of Red Hood, you can now pick it up $22.99, and as of the moment of this recording, it had not sold out, which is really cool. He also does come with a bike. Not to say that it comes together with a bike, but there is also a bike that is supposed to go together with this particular version of Red Hood. However, it is being sold separately. That bike is being sold for $29.99, and I have to say there is the option for customizing here, because it doesn't really look like it has an emblem or anything like that, so it doesn't have like any reason for you to believe that it's a Red Hood, aside from it being in like a DC Multiverse package. So you can kind of take it for what you want, maybe throw it in a different display if that's what you choose. But I like the fact that these are separated. They're not, you know, plastered together or thrown together in a 2-pack. They don't force you to purchase two figures that you don't want. If you just want the bike for your Red Hood, or for another Red Hood that you have in your display, you can do that. Or if you want just the Red Hood, you can do that as well. They're giving you options here. I wouldn't be surprised to see this bike reused later down the line, because there are quite a few figures that could benefit from a bike. Now, moving on, and probably the figure that everybody wants to talk about, is that Rebirth Cyborg. And I will say, I've never understood the hate that the Rebirth era of DC comic books tends to get, because I personally enjoy some of those storylines and some of the designs for some of the DC characters. And I think Cyborg is a perfect example of that. I love this Cyborg. This is kind of what I would consider to be like my end-all Cyborg. I did not pick up the Build-A-Figure, so I am definitely jumping in on this. Unfortunately, it has completely sold out online as of the moment of this recording. It might pop in and out of stock, so don't quote me on it. I think they're usually, like, GameStop keeps their pre-orders open, but like I said, I wouldn't pre-order from GameStop. They tend to cancel orders, or just they just don't fulfill orders, period. This has happened multiple times, so I would be very cautious. But yeah, this particular Cyborg looks absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if this is a retooling of the original Build-A-Figure Cyborg. As I said, I do not have that particular version of Cyborg, but I'm just going to go on a limb and say maybe they are using bits and pieces of that particular Cyborg. But I just love this look. I love the aesthetic. And even though I love stuff that's based like in video games or really obscure sources, for example, we had the Brainiac figure that was supposed to be based, I believe, in the Injustice video game, if I remember correctly, which is really cool. But I would much rather have like a classic DC iteration from the comic books. And so even though this isn't technically a classic representation, I think it's pretty close, especially considering Cyborg isn't like a super old character. And same thing with Brainiac. I would love to see like a Rebirth era Brainiac, and this is right up my alley. I really want this for my display. Hopefully people that really want this are able to pick it up. So there you have it. I've ranted on enough about DC Multiverse figures, some of the newer ones that are coming up. If you guys are interested, all of these are for pre-order. If they're not, be patient. Don't pay the third-party markups, or we can always just go out hunting for them, because sometimes, let's be brutally honest, that's like half the fun, being able to find it in person at like a Target or a Walmart. Or if you're like super drunk and have no idea where you are, potentially a GameStop, because, you know, GameStop sucks. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in, for listening to me rant about action figures for a few minutes. If you guys enjoy this type of content, make sure to stay tuned, because we do this pretty consistently, like 3 to 4 times a week. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down below. Stay safe out there. Enjoy the hobby. That's the most important part of all of this. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.